Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Your product is solid, your team is passionate, and your vision is crystal clear, but somehow things just aren't taking off? You launch, you push, you hustle, but the growth either flatlines or collapses under pressure. Here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you. You didn't fail because your product wasn't good enough. You failed because you scaled too soon. And according to Dr. Benjamin Hardy's groundbreaking book, The Science of Scaling, that single mistake is what kills most businesses before they ever get a chance to breathe. Today, we're unpacking why smart scaling isn't about moving fast. It's about moving right, and we're going deep into the science, psychology, and strategy that separates companies that scale sustainably from the ones that explode and disappear. This is the playbook for founders, creators, solopreneurs, and anyone trying to grow something big without destroying it in the process. Dr. Benjamin Hardy is no stranger to transformation. He's a renowned organizational psychologist, best-selling author, and one of the most respected voices in self-leadership and business psychology. Teaming up with Blake Erickson, they deliver a message that isn't just practical. It's backed by data, neuroscience, and real-world startup case studies. And I'm not talking about vague motivational advice. I'm talking about step-by-step breakdowns of why, when, and how to scale. And just as importantly, when not to. So let's start by laying out the big idea. There are 3 stages to building something that actually scales without collapsing. Nail it, build it, then scale it. Sounds simple, right? But trust me, most people rush the first 2 and dive headfirst into the third, and that's exactly why they fail. Stage 1 is about nailing the product-market fit. Now, this is where most entrepreneurs trick themselves. They confuse polite interest for real demand. But Dr. Hardy makes this distinction crystal clear unless your customers are begging for your product, unless they're sharing it without you asking, unless they'd be seriously upset if you took it away, you don't have product-market fit. You might have a nice idea, you might even have a few sales, but without that pull, you're trying to force growth. And forced growth is expensive, exhausting, and unsustainable. He gives the example of Slack. Now, when Slack entered the market, it wasn't trying to be cool. It was solving a painful problem. Team communication was messy, scattered across emails and clunky software. Slack simplified everything, and teams adopted it like wildfire. Why? Because it made their lives better immediately. That's the kind of pull you need before even thinking about scaling. Stage 2 is what Dr. Hardy calls the transition stage. And this one's tricky because it's the most fragile part of the process. You found product-market fit, and now you're tempted to sprint. But this is the point where you need to slow down, just long enough to build internal systems that can handle the pressure of growth. Hiring systems, onboarding systems, culture, accountability. If you skip this, you might grow fast, but it'll all fall apart just as quickly. One powerful story he shares is the downfall of a company called Tilt. They raised millions, hired fast, and scaled from 5 to nearly 100 employees in no time. But the internal systems didn't keep up. Decisions slowed down, culture fractured, and soon the whole thing was sold for a fraction of its value. Not because the idea was bad, but because the infrastructure couldn't handle the growth. Then comes stage 3, the moment you've been waiting for scaling. But now, scaling isn't about guessing or hoping. It's about pouring fuel on a fire that's already burning efficiently. And Dr. Hardy shows how companies like Airbnb waited until their systems, legal frameworks, and user trust were in place before they exploded into one of the biggest hospitality disruptors in the world. They didn't rush. They built slow to scale fast. But scaling isn't just about systems. It's about psychology. And this is where Dr. Hardy really shines. He introduces this concept of the future self CEO. It's the idea that in order to lead a scaled business, you have to become the version of yourself that your future business needs now, not later. Now, he tells the story of Rachel, a founder who had a successful $3 million a year business. But every time she tried to grow, she hit a wall not because her team wasn't ready, but because she wasn't. She micromanaged. She second-guessed decisions. She couldn't let go. Hardy helped her start journaling as her future CEO self. Every day, she wrote as if she was already leading a $10 million company. And over time, she started making decisions from that mindset. Within 2 years, she hit $12 million. That's not just journaling. That's identity-based scaling. And here's where I want to turn the camera to you. Have you ever felt like you're the one holding back your business? Like you've built something great, but you're afraid to let go or hand over control? Drop a comment below. Let's be honest about where we're stuck. Because until we address the mental bottleneck, no growth strategy is going to fix it. The book also dives deep into case studies of massive startup failures, and I mean massive. Take Quibi. Remember that name? They raised $175 billion. Huge names, massive expectations, and they died in under a year. Why? They built the machine before proving people wanted it. They scaled content, marketing, tech, before nailing what people actually needed. Classic example of skipping stage 1 and rushing into 3. Or Fabcom, which skyrocketed to a $1 billion valuation in 18 months, then crashed just as fast. Same issue, no loyalty, no operational strength, just hype. And hype doesn't last. So what can you do differently starting today? First, stop thinking about growth in terms of speed. Think of it in terms of alignment. Is your product actually solving a deep burning pain? Are your users raving about it without you asking? If not, don't scale and refine. Second, get your systems tight. Hardy recommends building standard operating procedures for every major function. Why? Because chaos doesn't scale. Clarity does. Third, scale yourself. Start showing up like the leader your future company needs, not someday today. And that means investing in mindset, decision-making, emotional regulation, and vision. You can't lead a $100 million company with a $100,000 mindset. And honestly, I learned this the hard way. In my early days, I tried to scale too soon. I hired fast, tried to launch multiple things at once, tried to act like a big business before I had the foundations. It didn't work. I burned out. My team was confused, and I had to start over. Only when I began acting like the right-sized version of myself, not a fantasy future version, did things actually grow. And I want you to ask yourself now, what stage are you really in? Are you still trying to find product market fit? Are you in transition, trying to stabilize systems? Or are you actually ready to scale? Because knowing where you are is more powerful than pretending you're further along. So here's the takeaway. Scaling is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters at the right time, with the right mindset, and the right structure to hold it all together. If this helped reframe how you think about growth, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who's on the edge of scaling and needs to hear this before it's too late. And remember, scaling isn't about getting there faster. It's about building something strong enough to last once you arrive. Thanks for watching. And next episode, bookmark it.